How you doing, man?
Pretty good. How's everything?
Never better, never better.
Good,
All good.
good, excellent. So let's jump into it. I am Lavoisier with Grow the Heck Up. I have Tom Corley from the a well-known author of the book Rich Habits with us today. How you doing, Tom?
I'm doing great, Lavoisier. Thanks for having me on.
Good, good. Listen, I got to tell you, man. So I discovered you through Dave Ramsey, and I did a Periscope episode about it. A bunch of people thought it was cool, but I work with schools, man, and I talk to young people, black kids, white kids, adults. Like they're blown away by the information that you discovered um, from your 5 year excursion into the habits of the rich and the poor. What drove you to like explore the different dynamics?
Well, I thought initially, Lavoisier, I thought it was because, what lit the fire was I had a client, a business client, who was going bankrupt, and he came into my office one night. I had just taken over the helm here at my CPA firm, and
Okay.
he was looking for a line of credit. I couldn't get him a line of credit that quickly, and he ended up going bankrupt. But my point was, he broke down that night, started crying, and he said, what am I doing wrong? What are your rich clients doing that I'm not doing? And so I thought, that was kind of what it was all about. But when I peeled the onion, I guess the real reason why I embarked on this study was because I had grown up until the time I was 9, we were rich.
Huh.
My dad had actually sold his business for about $4 million, which is like $22 million in today's dollars.
Right. Wow.
We had a lot of money,
Right.
and we were just wealthy. So,
Right.
but then the people that were supposed to pay my dad didn't pay all of the money. In fact, they only made one payment.
Wow.
He took the business back, but that was 18 months later. When he took the business back, it was a completely different business, and they did everything wrong. They did everything differently,
Wow.
and they also torched the business. They burnt it down to the ground,
Wow.
and he literally lost everything overnight. And so that's probably the real reason, the underlying reason why I really wanted to find out why some people are rich and some people are poor, and why some poor people get rich and why some rich people get poor. I
Right.
want to understand, everything about that, so I could help advise people.
Right. Right. Very cool. So, sometimes I see some pushback. Like I moved. I'm from Brooklyn. Grew up typical like American black hood statistic, and through the power of education, information, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, I feel like I'm on a path to empowerment, and resources like yours have tremendously aided in that. But sometimes I see that there's some pushback. Sometimes I see that people say that it's not that simple. There are layers to it. There are complexities. What are your thoughts on that? And I'm sure you've seen it. Even Dave Ramsey had the issue of, hey, listen, let me balance this out or whatever. And he highlighted 3 reasons people are usually poor. Third world country dynamics, which don't apply to America, bad decisions and or oppression. Even billionaire Jack Ma, founder of Alibaba, said if you're 35 and you're broke, it's your fault. How do you deal with the pushback, and what do you say to some of those who say there's complexity and layers and it's not that simple?
Yeah, so it's a process. That's how I respond. It's not going to happen overnight. The Mark Zuckerbergs and the guys from Google, they were literally overnight successes.
Wow,
they're,
right.
they're they're the needle inside a haystack inside a haystack inside a haystack.
Right, right.
The bell curve, which is the bulk of the self-made millionaires. These people, it took them anywhere from 12 years to 32 years, according to my research,
Right.
to become wealthy. The 12 years is more towards the self-made millionaires who were pursuing some dream that they were passionate about.
Right.
That accelerates the whole process. It can even be shorter than that, Lavoisier, if you have a mentor in life. Most of us don't have mentors.
Right.
So, we're kind of all in the same boat that way. But the people that do have mentors, I found in my research that it could be less than 9 years before they become self-made millionaires.
Wow.
Now, if you don't have mentors and you don't have a dream that you're pursuing, the other way to become wealthy is to simply live below your means. That means saving 20% or more and living off of the difference, and then investing your savings wisely. It's going to take you on average about 32 years, according to my research, to become wealthy that way. But you know what? Unless you die, 32 years is going to come and go anyway. So you might as well, do that. And the ones that really have the most success or accelerate the process or guarantee the process succeeds are the ones that do both. They pursue something they're passionate about, or get a mentor and live below their means. So there's a number of ways you become wealthy, but it is a process. It takes a long time. The one common denominator I will say is what you raised, which is they pursue growth. They try and educate themselves. And you see, look, Lavoisier, all of these millennials who we have the most educated generation right now. Right. The millennials. Right. They're the highest educated generation. Yet they make the least amount of money in all of the other generations. From my generation, which is the baby boomers, the Generation X, and then the World War II generation, the greatest generation they call it. They make less money than all those three generations. So something's wrong with our education system. For sure. And I think the solution to all of this, in my opinion, is you've got to pursue self-education. You have to grow on your own.
Wow, and the internet has been a tremendous equalizer. Like you can lift up the hood on your computer and, in theory, build what Mark Zuckerberg built. The access is incredible. What do you think? What do you think it is about people who encounter this empowering information? And I mean, I know you can't oversimplify it, but what is it about people who say they want it? Because I'm sure you encounter that all the time. People who say they want it, and then opportunity presents itself, and they don't take advantage. They don't have initiative. They don't have drive. What do you think that's about?
Yeah, I know exactly where you're going with this. So here's where risk tolerance comes in. A lot of us were raised in families where we're averse to risk. Stay within the herd. Don't separate yourself from the herd. Do what we're doing. Robert Kiyosaki has a great YouTube video where he talks about this. He was Asian and Japanese, I think, and his parents, his grandparents, all of his relatives said, "You got to go and get a college education. You have to get a college education." And he said, and he looked around. He said, "But all of my relatives are poor." Right. So where the habits are contagious. They spread like a virus. And we pick up our thinking, our beliefs, and our behaviors primarily from our parents and our environment, right? Right. So if everybody around you is telling you to avoid risk at any cost, when an opportunity presents itself, you're going to go and run and hide.
Very true. That makes a lot of sense. It's more about conditioning.
Yeah, that's what happens. That's why I love this whole path that I've been on. It's opened up my eyes. I'll be honest with you. I've always, up until my research, I hated rich people. I just thought they were evil, greedy, cheats. And they were fat and they smoked cigars. That was my impression of rich people. Right. And when I was done with my research, now this is a guy, Tom Corley, who hated rich people. Right. When I was done with my rich habits study, I fell in love with them. I realized, oh my God, everybody had told me about rich people was a myth. Wow. Was false. And so I said, you know what, I've got to shake these beliefs. And I started really embracing the rich habits myself, even though I did the research and I wrote the book. Right. I really didn't start embracing the rich habits until 2007. That's when I was about 220 pounds, a little bit more than that. And now I'm 183 pounds. Wow. But at that point, I said, I'm going to adopt the rich habit, the exercise rich habit. So I started exercising every day. And then I also mimicked the way that they ate. I started this thing called intermittent fasting because it popped up so often.
Yeah. My guys talk about it all the time.
Oh my God, it's unbelievable.
Really?
There's no debate on it, in my opinion. Everyone I know who does intermittent fasting is at about 10 pounds below their what they're supposed to weigh.
Wow, that's crazy.
And plus it makes you healthier. But anyway, my point is this: I started embracing some of these rich habits, and the first immediate effects were my health improved dramatically. And then then the other one was I started adding the rich habit for creating multiple revenue streams. At the time in 2008, I really had just one revenue stream, my CPA firm and my salary that I draw from this.
Right.
Then I added financial planning, and then I added my one book, Rich Habits.
Right.
And then after that, I added Rich Kids as a book.
Right.
Change Your Habits, Change Your Life. Now I have Rich Habits, Poor Habits, and now my books are being syndicated. They're going out to China, to South Korea. They're in Australia, the UK.
Right.
So each stream, each one of those is a revenue stream. So if you would add up, I think I have close to about 14 revenue streams.
My goodness,
now.
wow.
Yeah, and my income has doubled. And I'm looking at it, I'm saying, my God, this stuff is not that complicated. I wish somebody would have told me about this when I was young. So I've been on a mission to share these rich habits, particularly with the young people, because that's why, like you, I go and talk to schools. I've spoken to over 2,000 high school students and college students, and I gave away as many books.
Right.
Those books cost me about $3 or $4, so it's not an inexpensive thing.
Right.
So I'm trying to get the word out because if you could start these rich habits when you're younger, it's a lot easier. Right.
Okay. So with that being said, how important is it? Because I've been on this thing where I'm noticing like so many of us are asking our children to be things that we're not. We're saying, hey, listen, you got to put your best foot forward. But then we're like coming home after work and watching Netflix for like 6 hours, man. You know what I'm saying? So it's almost like you can't reproduce in your children what you're not practicing. It's not likely. Go on.
That's right. So you hit on a good point. So there's something called mirror neurons.
Mirror
neurons is a
okay.
brain cell.
Right.
We have these really in abundance when we're young, and the idea behind mirror neurons is that nature wants you to emulate your parents because the chances are they're not going to do anything that's going to put you at risk.
Wow.
So they're not going to engage in behavior that's going to put you at risk. There's deviations from that.
Of course.
But most parents are really trying to help their kids. So so when your parents have bad habits like sitting on a couch and drinking beer,
right?
Let's say, or if they do drugs, kids find out about the drugs. They find out that they smoke pot and they do other crap.
Right.
If you gamble, my dad loved off-track betting, and you were from New York, right? I was born and raised in New York. That off-track OTB, that was a big thing in my family.
OTB, right?
My dad used to take us to the OTB on Saturday mornings. We'd hang out there for an hour while he was gambling. And so you pick up these horrific habits just because you have these mirror neurons and you emulate your parents. And there's a Brown University study of 50,000 families, and what they found was the habits that we pick up from our parents stay with us forever. And those habits, believe it or not, get forged by the age of 9.
Wow.
So it's so. Imagine you're 9, you pick up these habits from your parents, and now you go your whole adult life, and you're in your 40s, and you're scratching your head, and you're saying, "God, why don't I have any money?
Right.
Does my life suck?" So it's kind of that thing.
Wow. So how important is financial literacy in general? Because I always hear people talk about, and I've experienced the things that aren't taught in school that are essential to life. I don't necessarily think it's the school's job. I wish they did a better job, but. How important is financial literacy in the home, around the table? How important it is to introduce your kids to these concepts early on?
Yeah, I agree with you. It's not the school's job. It's the parents' job.
Right.
And I think at the age of 14, in fact, I did an article for Forbes magazine.
Okay.
We did an article together. We collaborated on how to raise your kids to be financially literate. And one of the things that they asked me was, when do you start teaching them? And I think the right age is 14. That's when most kids can work. They can mow lawns, they can shovel snow, they can do whatever.
Right.
Lifeguarding, So that's when they start to accumulate money.
Right.
So that's when the time to teach your kids about money is when they come into contact with money. And when they come into contact with money is when they start earning it. And what you want is to teach your kids, and this is where parents have to take control of things. You set up a savings account or a Roth IRA or whatever,
right?
And you invest 50% of whatever the kids make right into those investments. And then you work with the kid. You say, hey, look, your savings account has $1,000 in it, or your Roth IRA has $1,000. Let's take that $1,000 and let's invest it in some stocks or some mutual funds or something like that.
Right.
So this is how it can become fun, because when you're young and you have $1,000 to invest in the stock market,
right,
that's when you're really interested in learning about it. Here's why: because it doesn't matter if it goes up or down.
Right.
When it goes down, you're completely emotionally attached to it because you just lost money and you're pissed.
Right.
When it goes up, you're emotionally attached to it because you're exhilarated because you just made money.
Wow.
So that's that's the time, I think, when 14, and then have your kids read books, because parents. Let's put it this way: parents' advice sometimes goes in one ear and out the other, right?
Right.
The best thing to do is just shove a book in your kid's face and say, hey, read this. Even pay them $10 to read the book. I did that with my kids.
Wow.
And so then they're getting information from somebody else.
Right. So it's like you're presenting them with like a credible messenger outside of yourself. Yeah.
So let me give you an example of how important this is. So one of my heroes in life is Ben Carson. I don't know if you know.
Of course, Dr. Ben Carson. Right.
Right. The guy to me is just unbelievable.
Right.
So his story, which is amazing to me, is that they grew up in the ghettos in Detroit.
Right.
And he and his brother Curtis, they had no money. Their mother worked as a cleaner. She cleaned the houses of wealthy people.
Right.
And she noticed one day when she was cleaning, she started paying attention to how the parents raised their kids, and she noticed they didn't watch a lot of TV. And all the kids were reading. They had to read.
Wow.
So she came back and she said, back home, and she said to to Dr. Carson and his brother, you're not going to watch any more TV. You guys are going to read.
Wow.
And I want you, leaving school and going to the library, getting books and reading. And then at the end of the week, I want you to write a one-page summary about what you learned from your reading this week.
Wow.
And they would have to give this summary sheet to their mother, and on Friday nights she would sit there and, like she was grading a test,
right,
she would read it and she'd make up notes, write on it and everything, and she'd give it back to the kids. She goes, very good, I'm very proud of you, whatever. And then this went on for years until they were in high school, and Ben Carson talks about this in one of his books. He said, I was eavesdropping on a conversation because I heard my mother's name mentioned.
Right.
And in the conversation, the two older women were saying, isn't it a shame that she's illiterate? So Ben Carson confronted his mother, and she said, yeah, I can't read.
Wow.
Isn't that something?
Wow.
I mean, she just, even though she couldn't read, she still tried to instill this reading habit in her kids. And look at her kids now.
Right. She understood the power of it. Right.
Ben Carson stumbled. He said, I stumbled on, because my mother made me read, I said, well, if I'm going to read, I got to read books that I think I'm going to like.
Right. So
he started reading books about people that he could relate to, other black successful people.
Right.
And then he said, some of these black successful people, they had less of an education than I do.
Huh.
And yet they went on to become rich. So he kind of latched onto that, and he said, if they can do it, I can do it.
Right.
And look at where he is today.
Of course.
He's probably one of the most renowned neurosurgeons in the world.
Right.
And his brother Curtis, by the way, is no shakes. He's a brake engineer at Boeing.
Wow.
And I still think he's working there, but he's very successful in his career. So this stuff works.
Wow.
You just have to have parents that steer you in the right direction. Or if you don't have parents, you got to do what you're doing, which is reach out on the internet and stumble across people like me who are trying to share this information and get it out there.
Right. Indeed. Okay. So last question, Tom. You asked 144 questions in 20 categories. Over 350 millionaires and poor people. Said it took over 5 years, and I saw you did the math. That's like 51,000 questions, somewhere around there, right? What habit among rich people was most surprising to you? Which one of those things that you saw rich people doing surprised you as far as being integral to the wealth they were able to build?
The most important one that was integral to their success was the one I call dream setting.
Huh.
The dream setting is a process where you kind of create a vision of your future ideal life. You go out 10 years, you write a script, basically you paint with words what your amazing future life looks like.
Wow.
And when you're done with that script, it's usually about 1,000 words. That's what seems to work. You bullet point all of the dreams inside your script. And then what you do is you take one dream and you say, okay, how can I make that dream come true? So you build goals around it. And then you just go after those goals. And then each one of those dreams is like a rung on the ladder of success. And as you realize each dream, you get higher and higher on the ladder until you reach the top. And then that's when you're living your dream life. So I think the dream setting was something I never was introduced to, never heard about.
Right.
And I think that's the one that will probably that's to me is the most the quickest way to wealth.
Right.
Otherwise you got to save and live below your means, and that's a long haul. So
right.
Plus, who doesn't love pursuing their dreams?
Right. Of course. Right. Indeed. Well, Tom, listen, we appreciate you, man. I hope to have you back sometime, man.
Yeah. Thanks, Lavoisier. I appreciate you having me on.
All right. No problem. Stick with us for a second.
Right. Okay.
Tom, thank you, man.
Cool. I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, it was awesome, and I mean it, man. Like I stumbled across the article through Dave's Ramsey's or whatever, but I saw people's mind. I see people. I'm sure you do too. You wrote it. Like I see people's minds open. It's just things that they never considered. They're like, really? That makes a difference. My eating habits, how much TV I watch, and it's very powerful stuff, man. So we appreciate you here at Grow the Heck Up, man.
Yeah, I hope everybody enjoys it.
Yeah. I'll
blast it out to me when you're gonna run it, and I'll blast it out to my followers.
For sure, absolutely. I'll keep you posted with the feedback and everything.
Okay, Lavoisier.
All right, take care, man.
Have a good day.
You too.